Hi guys, welcome to 100 in 100 with me, Brendan Little, and joined today a dual session with Richard Little. We are co-founders and directors of Your Land Partner and Property Developers Academy, continuing our 100 days of content throughout the property development process, and we've reached half time, so halfway point, session number 50. And it's the introduction to a very important part of development, and in some ways one of the most important parts of development with regards to adding value, and that is planning. So during this 50th session, just want to give you an introduction into planning, and through subsequent planning mini-series sections, we're going to go into more details surrounding things like developer contributions, a bit more about the kind of drier areas of planning being the system itself, strategy, lots of different things like that. Now, planning is obviously one of these areas where you are going to need specialist advice. We're very fortunate in the respect that Richard has been involved in planning a pretty deep level and personal level with regards to all the deals that we've been doing for a long time, and over that time period has developed a good knowledge of the planning system and planning strategy. But what gives us the advantage quite a lot of the time when approaching development projects, which is a different approach and perspective to, strictly speaking, your planning consultant, is that we're coming at it from two different perspectives, two different points of view, the developer side and the planning side. So everything that we've put together with regards to, planning applications and paper trails and strategies and investment and all these different kinds of things are based on us being the developer and the planner, if you catch my drift. So we want to just give you an introduction into the planning side of things, and first of all, England operates a plan-led system. So you've got obviously the local planning authorities that produce their own development plans and policies, things like that. A lot of people do see it as red tape, though, however, do they not?
Yeah, and I see and get pulled in from time to time about the frustrations that planning is, and it's wrong, and it should be this, and it should be that, and it's all this, and it's all that. Well, my view, Bryn, as to some other people. For God's sake, don't get involved in it, because you ain't changing it. Just embrace the system that it is, and this is what this is about. And I'll sort of add to something that Brindley said. There is a massive disconnect between planning consultants when they're working for the developer and the developer. And we see it all the time. Now we've got some planning consultants, and massive advocate of planning consultants. And we use them all the time, and we suggest other people use them all the time. You've got to use the right people for the right thing at the right time. So one planning consultant isn't always going to be every answer to you. As a consultant, they probably, they may well suggest they are, but they're just not. It's a bit like GPs. You go to the GP and they point you in the right direction to go to a consultant, a specialist. It's the same thing in planning consultancy. I'm sure I'll upset one or two people that probably watch this.
Wouldn't be right if you didn't upset somebody on a live broadcast.
But planning, it's just, as we all know, or most of us know, it's where you add value. And really, you should add the most value. That's not entirely always correct, but let's just go with that for now. And this disconnect is, we are talking here today as a lead developer and with a lead developer's hat on, and it's up to you to have a sufficient understanding of the planning system, so that you can actually instruct your planning consultant so that you are going to get the result that you need. You might not know what that is at this point, but you've got to instruct the planning consultant in the right way. Otherwise, you end up with the disconnect between the planning system, the planning consultant, who's your eyes and ears to the planning system, and yourself. And we all know that instructing consultants is an art. it certainly ain't no science. It's an art, and once you've got a good relationship with planning consultants, then they understand a little bit about you and what you're trying to achieve. And what we do find is that sometimes people don't want to tell their planning consultant what they want to achieve because they're trying to keep it from them for whatever weird reason. And I know there's a couple of planning consultants who'll be nodding right now and saying, yeah, if only they told us that at the start. So as Bryn said, we're really, really fortunate, that we've got a quite extensive experience of planning, but that's not as planning consultants. We probably in some respects know as much, if not more, than some planning consultants in certain aspects. But we know the system. We know how the system works. We know how to get the best out of your planning consultants and the best out of the system. Do we always win? No, of course we don't. But we go in accepting that we're not going to always win. So, yes, I mean, I love the planning, and Bryn won't let me talk for too long about planning, but I could talk for hours about every aspect of planning because it's fantastic. I just love it. And what I really, really enjoy is the fact that so many people hate it. And it's our big opportunity to be different to other people. We invest massive amount in the planning system, the planning process from our side. We'll talk about that in future videos. But right now, and it's always the same message, is don't moan about the planning system. It's what it is. Just make sure you've got the right people around you that can manage the process and actually, let's say, take advantage of it, if you like, as much as possible. And I see, unfortunately, so many people go down a direction where they're just working with the wrong people. And they're not giving them the right information. Their expectation is too high. A good planning consultant will drag out the information that they need in order to do their job. However, you won't know how good that planning consultant is until you get a result. But then, of course, a planning consultant, a good result for a planner would be a refusal. We'll talk way more about that on another video when we talk about strategy, etc. And when I hopefully will be allowed to speak for some time. But this is about planning, an introduction to plan. This is about the planning system from a developer's point of view. This isn't about, we will talk about planning specifics, but this isn't about how to short circuit it. This is about how to understand the system, instruct your planning consultants and your team, and make the most out of it.
I think that's the key, really. It's approaching this from the point of view of being a lead developer. And if you take yourself back to one of the early videos within 100 in 100, we talked about what you need to focus on to be a lead developer. And part of that is process and part of it is people. And Richard mentioned both of those there with regards to the planning system and getting the absolute best, maximizing your reward from what there is in place at the moment. So in terms of you as the lead developer, it's about having your finger on the pulse in terms of what the process is and who the people are within that process, and being an expert at being able to manage both of those things, or having visibility and being able to manage both of those things. It's not about being an expert about planning conditions or Section 106 or particular policies or anything like that. That's where you've got your specialist consultants, but it's getting the most out of them. That's the key, really. So we kind of boiled down the process from a developer's point of view into 7 steps. Now, these 7 steps, they just reflect the kind of stages that you go through from start to finish. We've conveniently work them so they all start with an A. So maybe not strictly what you would call professional terms necessarily, but it's enabled you to remember them a lot easier. So obviously you've got advice to start with. So step 1 being advice. So we're sort of the pre-application process. We're big fans of the pre-application process, regardless of the kind of information that you get back from them, because any information is useful information. Even if you hardly get any information back, it gives you an indication and an idea of what, how much work you're going to have to put in to work with that particular planning authority, for example. Step 2, you've got application. So it's making the decision during your planning strategy, during your early conversations with your team and your external consultants in terms of whether you're going to go for outline, whether you're going to go for planning principle, whether you're going to go for full planning. And then you're able to ascertain some costs and various processes with regards to that. You've got step 3 being acknowledgement. So it's a validation from the planning authority or request for further information. So it's making sure that you're providing them with enough information to start with. We see a lot of applications that get refused because they either haven't invested enough money or they haven't provided the relevant information. You've got step 4 being announcement and assessment. So this is about publicising the plans, and then you've got a consultation period, public consultations and things like that. You've got step 5 being the answer that you're getting. Hopefully, you're looking to get you're looking to get the right result. But one of the answers that you might be going for on a particular application, is if it's in line with your planning strategy, is a refusal. And it's about building up that paper trail, so we know we can use that to determine what result we're actually going to get. So it's whether or not you're going to get granted with conditions, refused, non-determination, whether you're going to go to planning committee, all these different results. Number 6 being appeal. So it's the right to appeal the decision. You don't really see many rights to appeal a granted decision. So it's mainly rights to appeal refused planning applications. And then you've got step 7, which we've named ask, but it's mainly centered around judicial review, right to challenge a decision in high court. So taking it all the way effectively. Now, planning is an area where you can add incredible value. And generally our approach in all areas of the process where there is a real amount of value to be added is that you've got to put a real investment into adding that value, whether it's investment in time or whether it's an investment in monetary investment or both. So as Richard said, we're big advocates of spending money in the right areas on the planning process. We probably invest more money than others, but we look at it upon kind of when we look at decisions as to whether we should spend an extra couple of thousand or on this report, that report, or we don't necessarily need it, but will it strengthen our planning case? Will it help our paper trail? We look upon these kind of individual decisions as almost insurance policies throughout the process. So that's where you've got to approach it. And as Richard said, he's got a real passion for planning, could talk for hours about each and every element. And we're going to go into a mini series of planning in the subsequent broadcasts of 100 in 100, where we will be going into more detail on things like section 106, developer contributions, planning strategy, I think one of the important things which we are going to cover in more detail is how to include elements of the planning process and obviously the results within planning within your deal structure. We've just come off of the back of secure, so securing the deal. We've talked about deal structures, we've talked about conditional purchase contracts, but it's how the deal structure and the planning process kind of interlink really, which I think is really important. We're going to talk about the key players that are involved and what to look out for, and a few other things throughout the process. So session number 50. An introduction to the planning process, just to whet your appetite really as to what's to come. So hopefully you found this little mini session useful, and you'll be hearing from us again in subsequent sessions. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, see you soon.